Sly Stone, the musical genius behind Sly and the Family Stone, once stood at the pinnacle of American funk, soul, and psychedelic rock. His music defined an era, blending genres and breaking racial barriers at a time when the world was desperate for unity and revolution. But as quickly as he rose, Sly seemed to disappear. By the late 1980s, he had become a ghost, a shadow of his former self, barely seen and rarely heard from. Rumors of addiction, paranoia, and homelessness took over the headlines. But what really happened to Sly Stone? Why did the man who preached togetherness in his music fall into such a tragic spiral? In the early 1970s, Sly Stone was untouchable. Albums like Stand and There's a Riot Goin' On changed music forever, not only with infectious grooves but with raw political power. However, the very success that lifted him up also became his undoing. Sly became consumed by fame, money, and increasingly heavy drug use. Recording sessions became erratic, band members left or were fired, and Sly's behavior grew unpredictable. Friends and collaborators would later say that it wasn't just the drugs, it was the pressure of being a symbol, a spokesperson, and a legend, all at once. By the 1980s, Sly had become reclusive. He rarely performed and released little new music. Stories surfaced of him living in hotels, losing large sums of money, and burning bridges across the industry. In 2011, it was revealed that Sly Stone was homeless, living in a van in Los Angeles, surviving off the kindness of friends and whatever royalties he could still gather. Fans were shocked. How could a man responsible for some of the most uplifting and unifying music ever made fall into such despair? The truth was far more complicated than a simple fall from grace. Legal troubles further clouded his later years. In 2015, Sly won a $5 million lawsuit against his former manager and lawyer, who he claimed had tricked him out of his royalties. Though the court agreed with him, the victory felt hollow. His health was deteriorating, and the years of excess had taken a toll. He spoke rarely, and when he did, his words often hinted at deep wounds from betrayal and isolation. Even in his silence, though, his music continued to speak volumes. Younger generations kept discovering everyday people and family affair, and the magic of his sound never faded. In 2023, hope flickered once more. Sly Stone, then in his late 70s, released a memoir titled Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again, finally telling his side of the story. The book was raw, poetic, and heartbreaking. He spoke openly about his descent into addiction, the weight of fame, and how he lost himself trying to please a world that kept demanding more. Fans were stunned by his honesty. The memoir didn't offer excuses, only reflection. And through it, Sly seemed to reclaim his voice, not as a legend, but as a survivor.